All right, George. Well, it is a pleasure to meet you. Welcome to the podcast. Yeah, I think to start, just tell me your story. Tell me a little bit about how you got playing football, how you got in the NFL, everything that's happened. I mean, I read about you with the stuff you sent in your Wikipedia, and it's all very interesting. So, but I think hearing it from your own mouth is going to be that much more beneficial.
Okay. All right. Well, hang on to your seat.
Yeah.
It depends how long you want me to talk too. I'll try to. It's a long journey, but I'll try to just hit the high points.
Okay.
So I grew up in Stockton, California, in Northern Cal, agriculture area. I'm the fifth of six kids. Both my older brothers played college football, and as a young kid, I aspired to be better than my brothers.
Mm-hmm.
you know.
Naturally.
And I started playing football when I was 11. Played on the very first Pee Wee Pop Warner team Stockton had, the 1970 West Stockton Bear Cubs. And we had 29 kids on the team, and three of us signed NFL contracts in 1980. And our safety was a kid by the name of Vaughn Hayes, who went on to a Major League Baseball All-Star career with the Phillies.
Wow.
And actually came in fourth in voting for MVP in Major League Baseball.
So
So we had
this one team was just chock full of future pros, huh? That's pretty
four
insane.
professional athletes out of 29 man, little 11 and 12-year-olds. Wow. 10, amazing.
Mm-hmm.
So the first 5 games I ever played, I think we scored something like 245 points to our opponent's zero. And I was going both ways. I'm like, oh, I
Mm-hmm.
love this game.
Mm-hmm. Oh
you know.
yeah, yeah.
But I was a skinny, scrawny, slow kid, but I was just tough.
Mm-hmm.
And so my nickname in Pee Wee Pop Warner, the coaches nicknamed me Clang because I was so knock-kneed. They said they could hear my knees clanging clear across the field when I ran. You know,
Oh wow.
but I went both ways. I was tight end, a defensive end, and then as soon as I started playing in seventh grade, I decided I wanted to be the greatest NFL player that ever lived. And I always knew I wanted to be an oceanographer, biologist. I mean, I wanted to be the next Jacques Cousteau. Okay, and
Mm-hmm.
this is as a little kid. These were my dreams, and I had no doubt I was going to do them. So in seventh grade, I started lifting weights. I needed to put weight on if I wanted to. I knew need to get to college in order to get to the pros. Um, there were 6 kids in our family in a 2-bedroom home. My dad never even finished high school. He enlisted in the Navy during World War II and dropped out of school
Mm-hmm.
and came back and met my mom, and they raised 6 kids. And he drove a beer truck, and
Yeah.
so I knew I was going to need to earn a scholarship somewhere. Started religiously lifting weights in our the boys' room was the 1-car garage that they converted into a bedroom for 3 of us.
Mm-hmm.
And so I
Jeez.
got a little set of just a crummy set of dumbbells and a couple of barbells. And every night I'd be out in the boys' room lifting weights. And I heard, you need to put weight on. I would do milkshakes with raw eggs and bananas and peanut butter. And I'd shove sandwiches down. And so I get into ninth grade, my third year Pop Warner, and I've beefed up I'm 132 pounds now. I was 91 when I started playing.
Okay, so
92 pounds in
that's some
seventh grade.
growth. Yeah.
But still, I was just scrawny, slow. But I was tough. Again, I went both ways. But then ninth grade, my third year Pop Warner, I actually suffered the worst concussion I had. Um, they had us running this worthless bull in the ring drill, which no one should run, especially kids. And I knocked myself totally unconscious, was hospitalized, only missed 2 games, kept hitting the weights, got into high school my sophomore year. I was 6'2", 158, still just a beanpole,
Mm-hmm.
still lifting, doing my milkshakes at night. No doubt I was going to be the greatest NFL player that ever lived. That was my dream. And
Mm-hmm.
then between my sophomore and junior year, last came my sophomore year, 158. I come back my junior year, I'm 6'3", 215.
Oh
Put on
wow.
put on like 57 pounds
Hmm.
in about an 8-month span.
Jeez, was it just the puberty growth spurt, or were you
Well,
just putting
I
extra
just
work in?
I kept pounding the weights, and I was slowing down going up. I was just growing so tall when I was younger,
Hmm.
and then so I was like 6'2" as a sophomore. I was 6'3" as a junior and 215, and then I was 6'5" by my senior year. But I just kept hitting the weights. Um, and so at my junior year, I played on the varsity at Amos Alonzo Stagg High School in Stockton. And Amos Alonzo Stagg, I don't know if you know who he was, but he was on the original college All American team in 1899 with the likes of Pop Warner himself.
Wow.
I mean, these guys literally developed the game.
Hmm.
Stagg coached till he was 94 in Stockton at what was it's now known as University Pacific, but it was College of Pacific. And until Bear Bryant broke his record, Amos Alonzo Stagg was the winningest coach in the history of football. He
Wow.
had
So he stuck
300.
with it for all that time.
Oh, he coached and coached and coached. He
Hmm.
was just amazing. So my high school was named after him. And then, so my junior year, get in there and we're rolling, and we end up going 9-0-1, go to a bowl game against a team we had beaten 42-0 in a non-league game. And they went on and won their championship
Hmm.
at Merced High, and we played them in the second was called the Turkey Bowl. It was the weekend after Thanksgiving,
Hmm.
and they beat us 14-10.
Oh my gosh.
It was the only game I ever lost in high school.
Wow.
To this day, it bugs the heck out of me.
Oh yeah. If you beat them for what was it,
Oh yeah, yeah,
42-0,
and I
and
mean,
then
like I said, we threw it away. Guys went in cocky,
hmm
and so after the game, I just told everybody, you know what, put it in your crawl. We're coming back next year. We're taking it. And
hmm
so my senior year, we ended up going 11-0, perfect season. We were ranked third in California behind the co-national champs,
mm.
uh, Rancho Cordova, and I always freaked the school in Southern Cal. Um, but they tied for the national championship. We were ranked one below them in California. We were ranked nationally. By then I was always a good student. And so by then I was, all everything in high school. I was, all city, all league, all Northern Cal, all American. I made the top 100 All American team.
Mm.
And I had scholarship offers, all over, which was my plan in Pee Wee Pop Warner.
Yep.
And so I ended up going to University of Colorado on a football scholarship in '76 was my rookie year, and I majored in fisheries biology because being an oceanographer or biologist, that was my other big dream besides making the NFL.
Hmm.
Go to Colorado. My freshman year, we beat Oklahoma and won it was the Big Eight back then, the league they were in.
Hmm.
We won the Big Eight championship and played the old Woody Hayes Ohio State Buckeyes in the '77 Orange Bowl. And then but we lost that game. Um, I earned my starting position spring ball that year, my freshman year, and I was playing defensive tackle. I started 3 years for the Buffs, and then by my senior year, my goal back then there were 12 rounds of draft, and my goal going into that, I wanted to go on the first day.
Hmm.
I knew I wasn't going to be a high first round pick or anything like that, but and I just snuck in. I was drafted by the Jets in the 6th round, 1980. By then, I built myself up to about 275.
Oh, so you were big. You were
Oh yeah, yeah. I
six
was,
six five, 270. That's you had the build.
which back then was big, and nowadays that's like a wide receiver. You
Oh
know,
yeah, yeah. Those are the quick small guys.
wow. I mean, these guys nowadays, are 320, 330, and they're athletes.
Yeah, they're bears. Yeah.
Oh, they're running 5 flat 40s, at
Hmm.
330 pounds.
It's impressive.
So I got drafted by the Jets, go out there, and this was I knew they had Joe Klecko, who ended up being he's a Hall of Famer.
Hmm.
I knew Marty Lyons was their 1st round pick the year before out of Alabama, defensive tackle, defensive end. I knew they had Abdul Salam. I knew these vets that I was going to be competing for, but I'd never heard of Mark Gastineau, right?
Hmm.
So this was his second year. This guy comes into camp. He's 6'5", 284, and ran a 4.40.
Okay. What is
Four,
that?
4.4 seconds in the 40-yard dash.
Oh,
Okay.
okay. I see. I
We
see.
had we had two Olympic sprinters. We had two Olympic gold medal sprinters on the team, and one other guy that could beat him in the 40. Amazingly blazing fast. So I ended up, I got cut at the end of preseason. Then the Niners ended up picking me up about the fifth game of the season in '80. Um, and the way it works in the NFL, I never had a clue that after the final cut day, when the regular season starts, they just cut guys all year long.
Mm,
So you play on Sundays. Mondays are a light day. You go in, get treatment on injuries, a couple of meetings, break a sweat, and you're out of there. Tuesdays are your days off, and Tuesdays are the days they bring in guys from all over to try them out.
I
So
see.
you come into practice Wednesday, and all of a sudden you're looking, you're going, man, Larry, Curly, and Mo are gone. There's
Yeah,
some
it's
new
like some
guys.
people disappear. Now there's some new guys.
Oh, we made like 26 roster changes my rookie year after the final cut day in a
Mm,
16 game season. That's like one and a half guys every week were cut and new guys brought in. So the Niners had just traded Baltimore for a 6-year vet. He lasted 2 weeks. They cut him, brought me in, and it was a short week that week. We were playing the Cowboys on Saturday instead of Sunday. And so they give me this skinny little playbook. I have like one day in pads,
hmm.
Thursday, and then or Wednesday, and then Thursday. We have a light. Friday we fly for the game. Anyway, get a skinny little playbook. First play I'm in. Um, Now I had a history of concussions all throughout my career, but I never missed any time.
Hmm.
I played games at Colorado where we played Oregon one year. Uh, I had the only interception of my career, a couple of sacks. I was player of the week, and I have zero memory of it.
Okay. Wow.
I guess I was laid out in the first quarter on a tackle, face down. Um, they helped me off the field. This was all secondhand. I was
Just like
told by
other
other
people
guys.
telling you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they helped me off, clear my head, smelling salts, and I come in and play the rest of the game. And
But you
back
have
then
no
it was
memory of it.
no, no.
Oh, wow.
And back then it was called getting your bell rung. It was a
Hmm.
joke.
Yeah. It was
Uh,
just like, it's part of the process. It's, everyone goes through it. It's going to happen. It's just
yeah,
deal with it.
I mean, I watched another one of my teammates in Colorado, Tom Perry, just a stud linebacker. He would have been a first rounder. He had everything going for him. We're
Hmm.
playing Nebraska one year. Tom was a year or two ahead of me, so it was probably my sophomore, junior year. He gets dinged during the game while we're playing Nebraska. You know, Goes off sidelines. Clears his head, comes back in, finishes the game. We're in the locker room showering after the game. He drops into convulsions,
Oh, wow.
brain hemorrhage. Our orthopedic surgeon takes a drill they used to drill our helmets, drills a couple holes in his head. He realized what was
Oh.
going on
Hmm.
to relieve pressure.
Hmm.
They fly him. We were playing in Lincoln, Nebraska. There were no neurosurgeons there.
Hmm.
They flew him to Omaha. 8-hour brain surgery to evacuate all these blood clots in his brain.
Yeah. Yeah.
2 days later, had another brain surgery. I just connected with Tom just a couple months ago. Hadn't seen him in years, so we've just been reconnected again.
That's
Um,
awesome. Well, it sounds like he had, what would that be? An epidural hematoma where the,
yep,
the brain bleeds
exactly.
and then they
Yeah.
go in there, release the pressure. But by that point, it's blood is everywhere. Blood
Oh
shouldn't
yeah.
be in the brain and it's clotting and really shouldn't be in the brain. So that's,
And the
that's
brain's
intense.
encased in just a confined space, so any extra fluid in there is crushing that brain.
Hmm. Yeah.
So I get knocked unconscious the very first play I'm in with the 49ers, my rookie year. Um, don't re- that- and the trainers and doctors laughingly told me a week and a half later when my memory came back that I went through 15 or 20 smelling salts during the Dallas game. I go through a few series, come out sideways. They'd give me a couple of smelling salts, clear my head, go back in.
Hmm.
I don't remember playing the Cowboys. I don't remember playing the Rams the next week.
So your memory is just blank for a
Oh, it's
week.
gone.
Oh
It's
my
literally
gosh.
just, and once it's gone, it's gone. It doesn't come back.
Yeah, yeah.
So, and so that was almost mid-season. That was like the fifth, sixth, seventh games of the season, somewhere around there.
Hmm.
And then played the rest of the season. Actually, they caught me a couple weeks later, and then brought me back like the last 3 or 4 games of the season.
Interesting.
And then I come back just a few months later for the '81 season. Now, this was the year we drafted Ronnie Lott, defensive back, who's now in the Hall of Fame.
Okay.
We had 3 rookie DBs starting. This was the year Dwight Clark made the famous catch against Dallas that put us in the Super Bowl. So we ended up taking the whole show.
Yeah.
Now,
Winning the Super Bowl and everything, right?
yeah, that was our very
Yeah.
first Super Bowl, '81.
Okay.
It was January of '82, the '81 season.
Hmm.
So this was just a few months after my last concussion with the Cowboys, and that whole spring and going into the summer, I was getting headaches and ball of light in front of each eyeball when I had these
Mm.
headaches, and my hearing would come and go with the beat of my heart. And then I'd start projectile vomiting at night,
Oh my
which is
gosh.
all signs of intracranial pressure.
Oh yeah. All of that is no good.
Yeah. And projectile vomiting, the term projectile is legit.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
It's
it's like you can hit the ball from 20 yards out and chip porcelain. I mean, it comes out like a fire hose.
yeah. I mean, at that point, the pressure is it's getting down to your brainstem. It's getting down to
Yeah.
the vital areas.
And so I go see the team docs. They tell me it's high blood pressure. So they have me on high blood pressure pills for weeks.
Yeah, that's an excellent
And I
diagnosis.
and I just blown my knee out. I just had knee surgery,
Hmm.
and luckily, so I was coming back off of that, and I wasn't banging heads every day in practice. I was injured, but my head was getting worse and worse. And then September 14th, I just got to where I we had played Chicago that day, and I was on injury reserve with my knee surgery.
Hmm.
And after the game, my 2 roommates who I played with, Terry Totola and Scott Stouch, and had some friends come up for the game. We all go out and we have beers like we do after every game.
Hmm.
But my symptoms for the prior few weeks were such that I'd wake up in the morning with a headache, and then as the day progressed, the headache would get worse and worse till late afternoon. I'd have these balls of light in my eye.
Hmm.
My hearing would come and go with the beat of my heart, which later on through my own investigation, it was due to my brain was so swollen. Every time my heart beat, the blood would literally pinch off my auditory nerves.
Mm.
All signs of
Oh my
intracranial
gosh.
pressure,
Yeah.
um, vomiting. And so we played Chicago that night, and we go out for a few beers about 10 o'clock. I tell everybody, hey, I'm heading to the barn. I'm feeling horrible.
Hmm.
So I drive back to the apartment, can hardly see with the balls of light in my eyes, the hearing gone, puking, get back there, and I'm just, I think I'm dying. My head is ready to explode. So Terry and Scott come in about 2:30 after the bars close, and Terry goes, hey man, he goes, you look like hell. Let me take you to the hospital.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I said, thanks for the compliment, buddy. But I said, no. You have this people don't understand, but you got this athlete, especially football player warrior mentality
Hmm.
that they pounded into your brain. Now, in my brain, there wasn't a lot of room to pound it in
Yeah, it
because
was
it's
pretty
full of
pounded
fluid.
already. Yeah, sounds like.
But you never complain.
Yeah, just
You
suck it
know,
up, keep
yeah.
moving, don't
I mean,
complain.
pussies talk about their injuries.
Yeah, yeah.
And so Terry and Scott, they keep coming in. I mean, I'm up puking so hard now. My stomach's empty. I don't mean to get rude, but I had torn something, so I'm just puking up bloody foam.
Hmm.
My eyesight's going. So 3:30, 4, 5, they've checked on me 2, 3 times. Let's take you to the hospital. No. Finally, later on, late, or early in the morning, I finally passed out.
Hmm. Like lost consciousness.
Yeah, and
Hmm.
and before that though, I'm laying in bed between one of my puking bouts, and I mean, things are bad. My head's going to explode. I can't see, I can't hear, and my right arm curls up across my chest with my fist up under my chin.
Mm.
And I'm thinking, man, that's a weird cramp. And I pull it out, but when I grabbed it, this arm was numb. I couldn't feel my other hand grabbing it.
Oh my.
I
Yeah.
pull it out, I let go, and it curls back up across my chest like this, real slow, and just so I'm laying in bed now. I'm thinking, okay, I'm dying.
Yeah.
You
These
know,
are some crazy symptoms. I mean,
well, and focal point paralysis is what they call it.
okay.
So now I'm praying, and I'm like, okay, God, don't let me die here, and also God, please send Terry or Scott back in. If they come in to check on me, I'll let them take me to the hospital.
Hmm.
People have asked me, well, why didn't you go wake him up? And I said, I didn't want to be a pussy. I mean,
That, I
they
mean,
played,
that's how drilled in it was, I guess.
yeah, and
Yeah.
they played a game that day. I didn't. I'm not going to go wake him up. Hey, man, take me to the hospital. So I finally passed out. I don't know, 5 or 6 in the morning, and when we get up around 7:30, uh, I could move this arm, but I could barely lift a cup of coffee. The
Mm.
days after games are light days. We go in, injured players, you get treatments, couple meetings, a couple light workout, break a little sweat, and you're out of there early. And
Okay.
the team docs come in that day, right? So we have the orthopedic and the gym. So I waited till our orthopedic surgeon, who had earned the nickname Dr. D for Dr. Doom, prior to me getting there for the number of careers he ended with surgeries.
Hmm.
I waited till he sees everyone that got dinged the day before, and he had a little examining room attached to our locker room in Redwood City. I walk in his office. This is the same guy that's been telling me for weeks it's high blood pressure.
Yeah. He was the one who drilled the holes. And the other guy
No, no,
said,
that was in college. That was
oh,
our
okay.
that was our doc when I was at Colorado.
Okay. But this
So
is the
now
NFL guy.
now we're at San Francisco. And so I walk in his office and I said, don't freaking tell me it's high blood pressure. I
Hmm.
said, my arm went paralyzed. And he rolls his eyes. He says, sit down. I sit down on this little table. He gets his little retinoscope, those little lights that they look in your eye with.
Yeah.
He looks in my eye, and he says, oh my God, your brain's hemorrhaging. Now I come off the table ready to kill him, right? I'm
Hmm.
like, you son of a, and he's
Yeah.
going, no, wait. So, I'm just mad dogging him, and he reaches behind there's a desk behind him. He grabs a phone. He starts calling a couple of numbers, and calling a couple, and then he scribbles a little bit on a piece of paper. He hands it to me at like arm's length, like I'm radioactive or something.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
he goes, here, go home, lie down, drive yourself to Stanford Hospital this afternoon and see this neurologist, Dr. Adornato. So in my book, I wrote that my first thought was, whew, must be one of those mild brain hemorrhages. We
Yeah.
would have called an ambulance.
Yeah. One of the
You know
brain
what I
hemorrhage.
mean?
It's an easy brain hemorrhage.
Isn't it crazy?
No, I mean, I read on your, like when I was reading about you, I read that you had like a 38-year long legal battle, but I had no idea that it
Oh,
was like, this is some, it's almost impressive how terrible and how inept the medical
oh,
professionals were for this. I mean, today that this happens, I would hope, and they would have caught this. I mean, well, how long was it before your initial symptoms started and you actually like to where we are right now with
oh,
the neurological stuff?
oh, it was weeks.
Yeah,
I've been
no,
having
that's
problems.
that's criminal, like legitimately.
Right. I mean, they keep telling me I keep taking your high blood pressure pills.
Hmm.
I'm 22-year-old athlete, prime of my life. I was in greatest shape of my life,
Hmm.
and I had cut down from my freshman, my rookie year. They had me all beefed up, and I cut down. I was like 259. I played 275. I mean, I was trim, tight, great shape, and they're telling me I have high blood pressure.
Yeah, it doesn't track.
Well, another symptom of intracranial pressure is hypertension.
Yeah, yeah. No,
So
it's
they missed.
incredible how
How
poor these
inept,
doctors
how
treated you.
inept they are.
Yeah, like it's almost hard to believe, but I mean, you're not the first person I've heard stories of
Well, too,
ridiculous diagnoses.
and a lot of it too was, you know what? When you're on injury reserve, they have to pay you anyway.
Hmm.
So they want to suck every single play they can out of you till you're done.
Hmm.
So anyway, so I drove back to our apartment. Terry and Scott and I were living in Foster City, and that's about, I don't know, 20 miles from Stanford Hospital.
Hmm.
I go home, lay down. Of course, my headache's getting worse and worse. So I had to have a pillow over my face. I couldn't even stand lights. I drive myself through Bay Area traffic to Stanford Hospital that
Hmm.
afternoon. I see this neurologist, Dr. Adornato, and he takes one look at me and they want to do a CT brain scan. Now, I'd had one um, just a week prior, that as I'm looking through my medical records just yesterday, and I had forgotten I even had one earlier.
Hmm.
And those showed my ventricles were enlarged, filling with fluid in my brain, and they did
Hmm.
nothing about it.
Yeah, that's just another bullet point on this long list of
Oh,
ineptitude.
it's crazy. So I go see, he takes one look at me. They want to do a CAT scan, but the scan was booked up for a couple hours. Now it's getting late in the afternoon. So I told the doc, I said, hey, I said, I'll come back. I said, I'm getting close to my puking time, you know. And he looks at me and he says, you drove here? He goes, you can't drive like this. I said, I've been driving like this for weeks. So we argue. He convinces me to hang out in a room for a couple hours till they can do the CAT scan. So and I'm pissed. I got, you know what? I just wanted to go home and lay down. I was ready to start puking. So I hang out in a little room. They take me in, do a CT brain scan, and it's like, whoops, you know, your ventricles, and you have ventricles in your brain,
Hmm.
like ventricles in your heart. They're just cavities. They don't pump anything,
Yeah.
but they're normally about the diameter of a pencil.
Hmm.
And the back two ventricles produce a pint of spinal fluid a day, and it
That's a
goes
lot.
through a little teeny tiny. It's called the aqueduct of Sylvius. It's a little tube.
Hmm.
Goes to the front two ventricles, then it goes around your brain, down your spinal column, and it's used to flush out uh, toxins, debris, dead cells.
Yeah.
So when you have hydrocephalus, like I had developed, water on the brain, you get blockage in there. So when that fluid builds up, it doesn't go anywhere. It starts just crushing your brain. So they rush me in. They do emergency. It's called a VP shunt brain surgery. It's a ventricular peritoneal shunt. So they drill the hole in my skull,
Hmm.
run a tube to the middle of the brain, has to end in one of those little tiny ventricles. Then they ran a tube under a drain tube under my skin to the back of my head, installed this pressure valve. From the other end of the pressure valve, they ran a tube down. I can feel it. I've got my finger on it right now. Down the side of my neck, it goes through my pectoral muscle, down in my abdomen, and it drains. It's draining spinal fluid 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, as we're speaking right now,
Yeah.
because your body produces a pint every day.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. So I probably should have told you a little bit more about myself.
yeah, yeah. So you have some background.
Yeah, I just graduated from CSU actually. So
Oh, did you
I'm in
really?
Colorado. Yeah, I've been to CU a lot. It's,
So you're around.
I'm really familiar with that area. So I just graduated with my degree in biomedical sciences. So
Oh, nice.
I'm very familiar with all of
Congratulations.
this. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I took neuroanatomy, so I know a lot about the neurological side of things.
Yeah. So then you'll understand what I'm
I
talking
do,
about.
I
So
do. Yeah, I think it's good for you to explain though.
yeah. So anyway, so they installed the shunt. Um, the Niners go, whoops, Visger's in brain surgery.
Oops. Yeah.
So I'm in intensive care in Stanford, which is only, I don't know, 25, 20, whatever it is, from our facilities in Redwood City.
Hmm.
14 days, zero people from the field facilities come to see me,
Oh, so they
other than
shows
my
just
two
how much
room.
they care.
Well, they didn't want anyone seen. They didn't want Coach Bill Walsh seen at the neurosurgery center at Stanford. People would ask questions.
No,
You
that
know,
makes sense. Yeah, yeah.
even my own position coach,
Hmm.
McPherson, never even saw me. Come on, man. I was supposed to be one of his guys.
Yeah, yeah.
So Terry and Scott are coming in to see me, and they're going, and they're still playing. And they come in midweek and they said, "Man, Coach Walsh told the team you had a spinal test done and you're in Stockton at your parents' house recuperating." Now, Stockton was only, where I grew up, was only about 2 hours from 2.5 hours from our facilities.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm thinking, man, but at the same time, the trainers and doctors are calling me while I'm in intensive care. "Hey, Visk, you can keep playing. We're going to have a special made helmet protect your shunt." And again, the warrior mentality, I'm all in.
Mm-hmm.
You know what?
Just keep going.
You have to cut my legs off to keep me from playing.
Yeah.
So I'm in intensive care 2 weeks. When I get out of the hospital, go back to our apartment, Scott Stouch is literally walking out the door, literally as I get there with his bags. I said, "Where are you going?" He said, "They're shipping me to New Orleans." I said, "Where's Terry?" Now, Terry was a 6-year vet, right?
Mm-hmm.
Linebacker. Scott was running back. I said, "Where's T?" He goes, "They cut him 2 days ago."
Hmm.
So the only guys on the team that knew what was going on, other than me, are suddenly gone.
That's a little suspicious, I feel like.
You think?
Yeah.
Especially when it took me 38 years to settle this nightmare.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds like they could read the writing on the wall and they immediately started trying to cover their tracks
Oh,
here.
absolutely. It's like, we need to make Visger disappear.
Mm-hmm.
So when I had knee surgery early in the season, that was in the paper, right? And
Yeah.
I wasn't anyone in the NFL. I was a blue collar young kid, knuckles in the dirt, just and so all of a sudden I have brain surgery. There's nothing said.
A little
So
strange.
when I come back now, we're rolling. We're winning, winning. This is the first Super Bowl season,
Mm-hmm.
and this is the first year. This was Montana's third year, but it was his first full season starting. A
Okay.
lot of people don't realize that. DeBerg started for us the year before,
Mm-hmm.
and so they don't want anything rocking the boat.
No, they got
Yes.
the momentum. They want to keep it going, and the
Oh,
last thing they need is a huge news story about how one of their players had a concussion and had brain surgery because he was playing football.
yep. And so as the season progresses, at first thought I was just getting paranoid.
Mm-hmm.
And then, finally one day toward the end of the season, we're in the weight room lifting, and occasionally we'd have like local business people come tour the facilities. So these three husband-wife couple came through, and John McVeigh, our general manager, is introducing them to folks. And this is Joe Montana, this is Ronnie Lott, our rookie, safety, and he says, "This is George Visger. He's one of our veteran defensive linemen. He's on injury reserve. He had 2 knee operations." This
Hmm.
woman says, "Two? How'd you have two?" I said, "No, ma'am. I had a knee surgery and a brain surgery." And McVeigh, our general manager, looks me right in the eye with a look like, "Keep your mouth shut or you're gone." And once they cut you, they
Wow.
don't owe you another penny on the contract.
Mm-hmm.
Like a baseball contract, 10-year, 100 million. You play one game, they still owe you that 10 years. It's a contract.
Yeah. Yeah.
NFL, they can cut you at any time, and very few guys have a guaranteed contract. Back then, nobody did.
Mm-hmm.
So if you sign a 5-year, $500,000 contract and you play 2 games, they owe you 2/16 of that first year's salary, and that's it.
Mm-hmm.
So McVeigh looks me in the eye and he says, "No brain surgery." He says, "You had 2 knee operations."
Oh,
And I looked
that's
at
dirty.
him, and I'm not one to curse in front of women, but I said, "You know what?" I said, "He's effing right. I had 2 knee surgeries." I walk out of the weight room. I walk directly to Keith Fahnhorst, was our player rep.
Mm-hmm.
Now, he was an older vet. I wasn't one of Bill Walsh's guys that had been drafted, by the 49ers. Uh, I wasn't like one of that little group.
Yeah.
And so I said, "Hey, Keith," I said, "I don't know what to do." I said, "I just feel like I need to talk to somebody legally." And I had no clue what I was headed for.
Yeah.
Okay, and so they set me up with a player association, which they're about as worthless as tits on a bull, And anyway, they dropped the ball. This attorney supposedly looking into it, let my statute of limitations expire. So Now we roll. We go to the Super Bowl. We win it. Between the Super Bowl in January and May, after the Super Bowl,
Hmm.
I get arrested 3 times. Had never been in trouble in my life.
Hmm.
And like I said, we go out and have beers every night after practice, pretty much. And all of a sudden, I'd get up in the morning, go to practice, and no truck. And I'm thinking, man, nobody stole my truck. And I start calling people, did you see me? Did you see me?
Hmm.
And I was hearing stories of me doing things totally out of character. And I thought it was all BS. I thought my buddies had spread rumors
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
told everybody, if you see Visger, make up stories and we'll make him think he's going crazy from the brain surgery. And I have
Hmm.
buddies that would do that, right?
Yeah. Yeah. It sounds like, about right.
So all of a sudden, man, I start getting up some mornings and there's no truck, and I'm calling. Oh, you were at such and such a bar. You punched some guy out. And I'm like, no, I hitch a ride over there, no truck. I'd keep calling. Oh, yeah, you're over at 276 Club, and you threw a chair through the window, and I'd go over there. There's my truck. And I'd have no idea when I was there, how I got home. Then I end up in jail 3 times
Hmm.
that spring. Same thing, have a few beers. Next thing I know, one minute it's 10 o'clock at night. I'm sitting having a cold beer with some friends. Next thing I know, it's 3:30, 4 in the morning. I'm standing in jail with no memory how I even got there. What
Strange.
had happened was I developed brain seizures from alcohol.
Oh,
So
okay.
for me, they manifest themselves. I get very violent,
Hmm.
incoherent, eyes dilated. Okay, first thought the cops, it's like guys on drugs.
Yeah. Naturally.
And they thought I was a lot of times on PCP, angel dust, because I would just lose my mind.
Yeah.
So this goes into May of 82. Again, this isn't like years. This is just like 4 months after the Super Bowl,
Hmm.
7, 8 months after my first brain surgery. I go see the neurosurgeon, Dr. George Koenig, at Stanford Hospital, who did my first brain surgery. And I said, hey, man, something has happened since your surgery. Of course, he gets defensive. Not for my surgery. I said, listen, I said, I have a couple beers now, and I turn into the kind of people that I freaking hate.
Yeah.
I hate loudmouth punk bullies. If what I'm hearing, that's what I've become. He goes, well, not for my surgery. So they do a CT brain scan. He goes, you look fine. And I told him, I said, I'm leaving tomorrow for Mexico with my brother, Mel, and his wife. We were going down to Cabo, renting a little cabin to go fishing.
Hmm.
I said, he goes, no problem. Leave the country. I said, what about drinking? No problem. We fly down to Cabo the very next morning after this neurosurgeon gave me an examination and
Hmm.
scanned my brain. The very next evening, while we're having dinner, I have one margarita at dinner. I start getting headaches. I told my brother Mel and his wife Nancy, I said, hey, I'm gonna head back to the room. I'm not feeling good.
Okay. Anyways, yeah, we were at, you're in Mexico. You got cleared by the brain
So
surgeon and
got it.
you had a
So
margarita.
they come back to the room after I went back to the cabin early, and I'm going into a coma.
Oh my gosh.
I was puking my guts out, eyes dilated, can't speak. So my brother Mel is calling our oldest brother Bob in Sacramento, who's calling an orthopedic surgeon friend of his, Dr. Agee.
Hmm.
Dr. Agee is calling his neurosurgeon friend, Dr. Cobb. Cobb's telling Agee, your friend in Mexico is dying. Do not let them operate on him there. Get him home. Agee calls Bob. Bob calls Mel in Cabo. You got to get George home.
Mm.
So Mel gets me to the airport. And again, this is all secondhand, from my brothers. And we get to the airport. And back then, and I was big. So my brother Mel said it was like he had me by the hand.
Hmm.
I'm drooling, puking, eyes dilated. He said it was like I was Lenny of Mice and Men. Remember the big simple-minded brother and of Mice and Men?
I never saw that, but
Anyway,
I get the image. Yeah.
it's a famous book and movie. So we miss flight, and I'm going downhill. I'm dying.
Yeah.
Finally, they get me on a flight. They fly me to Long Beach, get me stabilized, fly me to Sacramento. We have the new brain surgeon, Dr. Cully Cobb. He reoperates. Now I was in such bad shape, he didn't want to drill a new hole and move the shunt where he normally would have put it. The
Hmm.
first hole they drilled was way in the back of my head, and you got to get that tube clear to the middle of your brain. So he puts the shunt in the same spot. 10, 12 hours later, next morning, my brother Bob, and I'm in Sacramento Hospital.
Hmm.
And so my brother Bob lives in Sac. And next morning, Bob gets a phone call from Sutter Memorial Hospital. It says Bob Visger. Yes, he goes. They said your brother's back in a coma. We think your family should get down here. It doesn't look good.
Mm.
They rushed me back in for a third brain surgery. Give me last rites. I'm 23 years old. I have no memory the next 16, 18 months of my life. Zero.
Oh my gosh.
I guess I was totally out of it. I
Hmm.
was just, people couldn't talk to me. I'd have my sisters crying at Thanksgiving dinner.
Hmm.
Just I would disappear for days at a time and no one even knew where I went. And so, about a year and a half later, when my memory starts coming back, my first recollection is I'm getting, you know, all these hospital bills.
Naturally, of course,
And
because they did
so,
such an excellent job in treating you, and
oh,
now
of
they
course.
need you to pay for it.
Yeah. And so, you know, naive me, says, please, and I would write on it, please build San Francisco 49ers. And I wrote it so many times even with my brain damaged brain,
Hmm.
I still remember their address, 711 Nevada Street, Redwood City. So I send the bill to the Niners. A week or two later, a week and a half later, I'd get it back from the 49ers. And all they would write on it was circle the total. They'd write, you owe this amount. Not even a freaking, hey, Visk, sorry to hear you're back in the hospital again.
Yeah.
So that started a freaking, then creditors on my butt.
Hmm.
Now, that year and a half, I had no memory.
And you're only 23. Like at
Yeah,
this, I'm 23 right
right.
now, and hearing this story, I'm like, this is I mean, this is a lifetime of medical and physical
Well,
struggle that I'm like, I can't even imagine.
think about it this way. I was 61 when I settled my work comp case.
That's even
We're not
crazier.
talking medical malpractice. We're talking a workers' compensation case. They fought me for 4 decades. They spent millions fighting me. And
They
all
could.
I wanted was what every injured employee has earned, just pay for my medical.
Hmm.
If I was a truck driver and got hurt and worked for a company, their work comp would cover my injuries,
Yeah.
not the multi-billion-dollar NFL.
I mean, it sounds
So,
like they just. I don't know how it is anymore, but it sounds like back then they just brought you in as a pawn, really, and just
oh,
stuck you out there on the proverbial chessboard and used you as long as you were good, and then that's about
and
it.
they just discarded you. We were like Roman gladiators. As long as you're fighting, they keep you. Once you're wounded, put a stake in his heart and drag him off. And there's 1,000 other guys that want his position.
Yeah.
You know. So I fought creditors for years. Now keep in mind, I made all of. When I was drafted by the Jets, I signed a 3-year contract.
Hmm.
I had a $15,000 signing bonus, of which I cleared 10,000, which I thought I was rich.
Hmm.
My first year's salary was 35,000.
Okay.
My second year's salary would have been 45. And had I lasted all of 3 years, and the average in the NFL is only 3.2, I would have made a whopping 65,000 my third year.
Psh.
So people have asked me, what did you do with all your money? And I go, well, let's see. That 18 months, I have no memory. I mean, I was bouncing at nights for $10 an hour and working for my brother during the day as a laborer because I had no skills as a carpenter yet.
Yeah.
And I was working for him for $12 an hour. I said I was surviving.
Yeah. You're like, what money? Like, what do you think I
Yeah.
had?
I lived in a $220 a month apartment for years.
Hmm.
And so anyway, I've got these creditors on me, and that just started a whole nightmare. I had to hire a work comp attorney. So in '86, I had no idea that I was the first and only NFL player to ever won a work comp case when I won mine in '86.
Jeez.
And no one ever won one, from what I understand, until 2010. So for years, I was the only guy, and that was like a burr in their ass.
Oh
They're
yeah.
like, I was precedent setting,
Exactly. Yeah.
so
It can be done. So.
they couldn't allow me to keep winning because if the word gets out, and so when I won in '86, they offered me 35,000,
Hmm.
and I told them very politely to place it where the sun don't shine, and I said I want what every injured employee has earned. I want my past medical paid. I want my future medical left open, and thank you God that I did
Hmm.
because I had 6 more brain surgeries after that,
Yeah.
and 2 more knee surgeries repairing what they butchered.
Hmm.
And I said, and because I can no longer function as an employee of the 49ers, I don't call myself a player. I was an employee.
Yeah.
I said, I can no longer function in my capacity as employee of the 49ers. You are obliged by law to retrain me in a field of work where I make, quote unquote, a comparable amount of money. That's called vocational rehab.
Mm.
I said, all I want to do is go back to school and finish my biology degree. And I had 4 years of biology at Colorado, but I was drafted before I graduated.
Mm.
So they agree. And so in 1986, after I won my case, I went back. I'm living in Sacramento, so I went back to Sacramento State University, and I had 4 more semesters of chemistry,
Ooh.
2 of physics left, 2 of pre-calc.
Hmm.
Okay, in one 10-month period, I have 5 more emergency brain surgeries,
Hmm.
several grand mal seizures. I'm in organic chemistry 3 times,
Not
almost
Okim.
through it. Well, yeah.
I do know. I do know. Okim is a bitch. Yeah.
Well,
It's
so I'm
hard enough
almost
at.
through it. My shunt blows out, drop out of school.
Hmm.
Take it, come back. Almost through it, shunt blows out, drop out of school, come back. Come back now 3rd semester, and I still had Chem 1A, Chem 1B, and Biochem after that.
Hmm.
And so I think, I know I still had Biochem. And so I come back a 3rd time, I take it again, shunt blows out again. I have brain surgery on Saturday. I leave the hospital 26 hours post brain surgery on Sunday. And Monday, I'm back in class with 40 staples pounding in the back of my head. I'm not going to drop out again.
Yeah.
And I have a 55-minute grand mal seizure in class.
Oh my gosh.
We were in one of those auditorium,
Hmm.
and I guess when the seizure, you stiffen up among it, and I got
Hmm.
locked into the chairs.
Yeah.
They said were bailing out around me. They had no idea what's going on. And so they have to pry me out. By the time an ambulance even found what building I was in, still seizing, they get me in a gurney, bounce me down the stairs, get me in the ambulance, get me in the hospital, still seizing. Uh, they had to pump me up with a real high dose of Dilantin to finally get the seizures to subside.
Hmm.
Drop out of school again. Okay. Now I have developed major short-term memory issues. I literally cannot remember. I have to write down where I park my truck every day. When I would leave class sometimes, if I didn't write down, I would walk up and down every aisle in every parking lot,
Oh my
north
gosh.
side, east side, looking for my truck. There would be
Hmm.
zero memory. I learned to start. I have 40 something years literally of these things every day of my life.
So even still, this has been one of
Oh,
the
yeah.
long-term issues that you've had is short-term memory.
Well, just like this today, when I was almost missing our podcast,
Yeah.
when you finally texted me, "Hey, we on at 3?" I look, it was like 3:09 when you texted me. I'm like, "Oh shoot!" And I had a bazillion reminders and beepers going off, and then I'll
Hmm.
forget. And so when I took organic the 3rd time, at one point before my shunt blew out, we had a test on cis and tran isomers,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
You know what I'm talking.
Cis-and-tran
This is great
isomers.
being
Yeah.
able to talk to you.
Yeah.
And so, and it was 26 isomers, and basically it was memorization.
Yep.
You
That's
know,
OChem.
I think a cis is it mirror image
So cis isomer, it's
or
where you'll have like
trans?
a carbon-carbon double bond, and then a
Yeah.
cis isomer is when the constituent groups that are attached to it are on the same side. And then a
Got
trans
it. Got it.
isomer is when they're on opposite sides of the double
Got it.
bond.
Got it.
Yeah.
So I mean, I studied, and I would go to the library every day when I was at Sac State, because I learned from my brain surgeries that I can't filter out background um, information.
Mm-hmm.
If I went home and tried to study, I would be sitting here like this, and out of the corner of my eye, I would see a magazine on the floor, and I'd be thinking, "Oh, I should read the magazine." Or I'm thinking about what's in the refrigerator. I can hear a truck driving. I mean, like
You
all
just
this
need dead
stuff.
silence, like
Yeah.
everything else, so you can focus.
So I learned the only way to study was like in between or after class. I would go to the library on campus, and I would go to the very far back corner where nobody would even walk by me.
Mm-hmm.
I'd get in one of those little cubicles. I couldn't even have a pen sitting on the cubicle because while I'm studying, my mind's going, the pen, the clicker, it's open. You know, it's got a blue cap. I mean, those kind of things would be going through my mind.
Yeah, yeah.
And I would study 8, 10, 11 hours a day, what a normal student would only take an hour or so to learn.
Mm.
And I just kept my head down. I just ground through it, you know. And then with dyslexia, I learned that every time I would do a problem, I would look at it, it looks good. If I clear my mind, do something else, look back, 20 minutes later, it looks good. Okay, clear my mind. Sometimes 30 minutes later, I look at it, and then it's just plain as day backwards.
Oh, yeah.
So with dyslexia, it's like there's for some reason you gotta like clear everything out.
So were you born with dyslexia, or
No,
was
no, I
did that
developed
come
it
from the brain injuries?
from the
Okay.
brain surgeries.
Yeah.
I think it was from my third or fourth or fifth. I can't remember. One of
Yeah.
those.
One could, who knows? Could have been any of them.
When I had that batch of 5 at Sac State, I developed dyslexia.
Okay.
So we have this exam in organic, I guess, and I bombed it. I had studied, I mean, hundreds of hours, and this is the only time in my life I've ever gone to a professor or teacher after I flunked something
Mm-hmm.
and said, "Listen, you know, I know this." So I go see the professor. I said, "You know what?" And I got like a 26% on it. I
Yeah.
mean, I just totally blew it, 36, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So I go see him. I said, "I know this stuff." He goes, "Yeah, you seem to have a grasp in class, you know." And he says, "I go, I don't know what happened." So he says, on his little whiteboard, he goes, "Okay," he goes, "just draw the cis isomer of this molecule."
Mm-hmm.
And I knew what it was, whatever it was. It was the one's a mirror image, one's a flip, whatever.
Yeah.
And so I draw it, and he looks at me, and I look at it. I said, "That's right, you know, the mirror image." And he looks back at me, and about the third time I look at it, I see that I had drawn the exact molecule he had given me.
Mm-hmm.
My mind, I had flipped it, but then my dyslexia had flipped it back.
Oh, I see.
I did that 3 times in a row.
Oh my gosh.
And then he goes, and I get goosebumps talking about this.
Mm-hmm.
He goes, he looks at me a third time. I just go, "I have dyslexia." He goes, he says, I guess you do."
Mm-hmm.
Well, I had no idea. So I've learned a lot in my travels through this crazy 38, 40, now it's 40 something year brain. So the standard lighting hertz in most buildings was like a 110 hertz cycle.
Mm-hmm.
So it's actually changing direction 110 times a second. With
Yeah, it's flickering on and off. Mm-hmm.
But you don't see those little flickers.
Yeah, yeah.
But people with dyslexia, that hertz cycle can trigger it.
Interesting.
So schools had to have, at least in California, at least one classroom on a different hertz cycle for students that were diagnosed with dyslexia. They could sign up to take all of their exams in that classroom.
Mm.
So once I learned that, I really didn't use that classroom, but I learned to just double and triple check and just and go back and back. And I just learned how to power through life with dyslexia and zero memory. I faked my way through.
Yeah.
And I graduated in 1990 at age 30. It took me 5 more years to graduate.
And at this point, you had had like 3.5 of years of how many years of undergrad had you had at CU?
Oh, I had 4.
Oh, okay.
It took me 5 more at Sac State. I had to drop out, you know, a
Mm-hmm.
few with brain surgeries. But so I had 8 years of school before, and I graduated. I had so many, like when I was at Colorado, all the physics and the math, you know, that stuff. And I struggled, but biology, you know, I'm a biologist.
Yeah.
I have a bazillionology courses,
Hmm.
way more than I needed,
Yeah.
for a bachelor's. I mean, I took things like limnology, ornithology, ichthyology. I mean, I'm a great biologist, but the math stuff, was
Yeah.
killing me. So when I finally graduated in 1990 from Sacramento State, I have a Bachelor of Science in Biological Conservation. I'm 6 units away from a second degree in social studies, so I have a minor in social studies,
Hmm.
and I am 10 units away from a third degree in somehow psychology.
Okay.
So I'm almost have 3 degrees. I
Yeah.
graduated with 172 units from my BS.
Oh my gosh, that's a
Yeah,
ton.
it's like a master's.
Yeah,
I
it
mean,
really is because 120 is what you normally get to graduate.
right,
And
right. Well,
yeah.
for Bachelor of Science, it was 135. 120 was a
Okay.
BA, and a BS is one. So anyway, when I graduated, then I started my second dream in life. I became a wildlife biologist. Did that for years. Um, uh, got married in '94. Um, and then my wife at the time, Christy, when I met her, Stephanie, my oldest, was 2,
Hmm.
and 4 when we got married. But as a biologist, all I did, I just traveled. I went 10 days on, 4 days off, all over the state
Hmm.
in Oregon, just doing everything from vernal pool fairy shrimp studies to San Joaquin kit fox surveys to bat surveys to you name it. Just and
All
and
kinds of stuff. Yeah.
so, but my traveling, little Steph, all of a sudden I was in and out of the house, and that was hurting her, you
Oh yeah.
know. So I ended up teaching for 2.5 years, from like 90, gosh darn, 5 to about 97,
Okay.
and I taught biology, chemistry, environmental studies, and English language learners algebra. So did that for 2.5 years at the high school level,
Hmm.
then went back into my biology stuff. But I'd always been really vocal about what the NFL had gotten away with, right?
Yeah.
And
Let's kind of get into that a little bit. Like,
yeah,
because I know
so
you're
but
kind of an I guess activist. You talk about these things. You
oh,
bring
so I'd
all
always
of
been
this to
very, very
light.
vocal,
Yeah.
and nobody wanted to talk about brain damage,
Hmm.
and my wife at the time used to tell me, she says, you can't keep doing this. You keep telling everyone you're brain damaged and no one will hire you. I said, I am brain damaged. I said, but I work 10 times harder than anyone else,
Yeah.
and I'll be more productive. And so I was jumping up and down for years about, and then in 2010, um, I started a traumatic brain injury consulting business.
Hmm.
A lot of things happened in 2010. 2009, Jean Marie Laskus wrote the article for GQ magazine titled "The Game Brain: The NFL's Cover Up of Concussions,"
Mm.
and it was on. Did you see the movie Concussion?
I didn't know.
Okay, so Will Smith played Dr. Bennett O'Malley. And Bennett O'Malley is a close friend of mine now on
Hmm.
my advisory panel. He and I have presented together at conferences. So the game brain was on the first 24 brains that Dr. O'Malley, first 24 NFL brains that he studied.
Hmm.
He was a neuropathologist at the coroner's office back in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And the first 24 brains he studied, 23 had this disease that he discovered, chronic traumatic encephalopathy. Now,
Hmm.
as he wrote paper after paper, the NFL is just ripping him to shreds.
Yeah. I mean, they have the
And
money and the power to just put that
oh,
stuff down.
Bennett was born in Africa during an air raid, came over. The guy has 5 degrees,
Oh my
including
gosh.
an MBA.
Hmm.
He's a neuropathologist. All these letters and a master's in
Yeah,
business.
he's got the whole alphabet behind his name.
Oh gosh, he is brilliant.
Hmm.
So this article comes out 2009. By the time I read it, I think it was like 2010. And I'm thinking, man, I got to find this Amalo.
Hmm.
Well, he was in Pittsburgh when the story was written. My office is in Sacramento, California. I track him down. And again, God has had his hand all over me on this journey. I've been blessed so many times.
Hmm.
And so I track him down and I find his phone number. And the guy is like 40 minutes away from me. He's the head neuropathologist for San Joaquin County uh, coroner's office.
Mm.
I mean, he's in Lodi, which Lodi High was our rivals in high school. And I find his phone number that day. So I call him. I get this voicemail.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew I had the right guy. Get this real strong African accent. Yes, this is Dr. Beno Nomalo. Sorry, I can't take your call. Blah, blah, blah. And he says, and remember, God loves you. So I'm going, okay, this guy, a God-fearing man,
Mm-hmm.
he's not going to be swayed by money and all this other crap. So I leave him this
Yeah.
voicemail. I'm only animated. Dr. Nomalo, my name's George Visger. Played for the 49ers. I've had 9 brain surgeries, So he calls me back within an hour. George, this is Dr. Mano. We'd love to get together with you. He says, but I can't tonight. He says, I'm speaking at UC Davis Medical Center, which was 15 minutes from my office.
So you're like, I'll just go watch him, meet him there.
I said, what time are you done? He goes, well, I won't be finished till 7:30 tonight. I said, I'll see you at 7:35 in the lobby. We meet.
Mm-hmm.
We go out to dinner. It's midnight. We are bouncing stories back and forth about what they did to him. And at one point during the dinner, he looks at me and he'll talk about himself in the third sense. And he says, why do they attack Dr. Omalu? And at the time, the NFL only grossed $9 billion.
Only, yeah.
I said, Bennett, I'll give you 9 billion reasons why.
Yeah.
I said, this is America. I said, they don't give a shit about the human carnage.
Mm-hmm.
It's all about lining their pockets. And he couldn't really grasp that concept. He thought they would say, oh my gosh, you found this disease that's killing our players. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Not so.
That was hard for him to grasp at first.
Mm-hmm.
And so ever since 09, 010, Ben and I have been in this war shoulder to shoulder.
Yeah. How would you say how much progress has been made? Because it sounds like when you started playing for the 49ers, it was like, this was something that wasn't talked about. You were a pussy if you even kind of complained about anything. And nowadays, I think most people are aware of the brain injuries in the NFL, but how would you say public opinion has shifted, and how would you say the NFL's stance has shifted?
I'll tell you. So just yesterday, okay, I'm at the gym here. We live in Little Emmett, Idaho, little 5,000 person town. We're like 45 minutes northwest of Boise.
Okay.
Going to the gym, working out, and I'm not a shy guy, I'm always meeting people, and then especially with the book coming out, I'm always giving them, hey, here's my card, my book's coming out, you can Google here, pre-order. And so I see these two big stout guys lifting,
Yeah.
I'm getting ready to leave, and I walk up, I said, hey, you guys football fans? They go, oh, yeah, and then one looks at the other guy, hey, he played,
Mm-hmm.
And I said, hey, I got a book coming out, this month, and I hand them my cards. So before I hand him my cards, the one guy that played, he played like a D3 or D4 school back east somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
He goes, yeah. He goes, I used to watch it. He goes, but you know what? He goes, I can't even stand it anymore. He goes, they pussified it, and it's not even a game anymore. And whenever I hear that,
yeah, I bet your blood just boils when you hear that.
I go, pussified it. I said, do you have any idea what this game does to guy? Oh, I can't even stand one. There's so many rules. You can't touch anybody. I said, do you have any idea what it does to families?
Yeah.
And then I turned around, and I said, see this 11-inch scar? I don't know if you can see it there.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, I could see it a little bit.
I said, I have a pump in my head. I've had 9 brain surgeries. I've been in comas. I've had grand mal seizures for 40 some odd years.
Mm-hmm.
I said, and all you people are worried about is being entertained. Mm-hmm. You don't give a shit what happens to those guys in the field as long as you're entertained on the weekends.
Yeah.
Give me my card back. I don't want you
that's unfortunate to hear. I would hope that more people would be, I think there probably is a growing cohort of people that are more aware of it, but there's still always going to be the people who are like, oh, we need to go back to the good old days when they just ate the tackles and nobody talked about it, and they were just men out there. But I mean, your story is an excellent example of why it's not strength to do that, it's stupidity, because you're just causing so much more harm than good.
And I was the same mindset. I mean, I can remember I used to get so pissed getting roughing the passer penalties. I used to go, put a freaking tutu on them. You can't even touch these guys,
Mm-hmm.
I used to hate it because back when I was playing, man, you were taught quarterback lets go of the ball. You still got about another half second to a second to knock the shit out of them.
Mm-hmm.
And then they'll start short arming it. You know what I mean? When they drop back there,
Yeah.
because they know you're coming. Nowadays, you breathe on them going by, but some of it is good. I mean, I know what it does to people and families.
Mm-hmm.
I literally lost my family, my business. I was homeless for almost 10 years.
During what period of time?
So as things started, so 2010 is when I connected with Omalo.
Mm-hmm.
That's right around when I started this brain injury consult. I was still working as a biologist, but that business was just, I couldn't keep track of, I was losing it, forgetting the bill projects and you name it. And so, but I was speaking, being asked to speak at more and more places, and I was doing it for free. I never charged anything.
Mm-hmm.
And then it got to where I was putting so much time into it and away from my other business that I started getting paid for some of these gigs. But as that was kicking in, and that article came out, that really turned things around.
Mm-hmm.
All of a sudden, and then especially for me, I'm looking at, okay, Mike Webster, the first brain that Omalo studied, and in the movie, you got to watch Concussion, because
Yeah.
I knew the story, and Bennett Omalo helped direct it,
Mm-hmm.
so it wasn't Hollywoodized. In fact, in the movie, they actually showed Justin Strelzik's actual suicide.
Oh my
And I had
gosh.
seen it beforehand.
Mm-hmm.
So he was a big old offensive lineman for the Pittsburgh Steelers,
Mm-hmm.
right where Bennett's office was back there. And he started going downhill, violent, tearing up places, busting up his house. And he tears up his house one day. His wife's in tears. He jumps in his truck. He's flying around town. He goes into like some 7-Eleven, gives the guy like $6,000 and tells him, I don't know, aliens are chasing him.
Oh my
Gets on the
gosh.
freeway. He's doing 100 plus in his truck.
Mm-hmm.
And this is from the dash cam on the cops chasing him.
Mm-hmm.
And it's in the movie, but I'd seen it before the movie came out.
Mm-hmm.
They're chasing him 100 plus miles an hour. He veers over headfirst into a tanker truck.
Oh.
Huge ball of flames.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And I'm like, holy shit. Mike Webster was my idol as a Pop Warner kid growing up.
Yeah.
And one of the highlights of my career was when I was with the Jets. We played the Steelers in a preseason game, and they were just coming off their 4th Super Bowl. And I got a chance to line up over Mike Webster. And I'm thinking, God, I used to emulate you.
Mm-hmm. And now I'm standing
we
right
had the
next to
same
you.
color uniforms,
Yeah.
the same black and gold and Pop Warner.
Mm-hmm.
And then when the movie and the book came out, I read about how he died. I mean, his last few years, just losing his mind, calling his son up. I'm trying to find my way home, but all I see are trees. His son Garrett, who I was good friends with several years ago, we used to talk a lot.
Mm-hmm.
He told me, he says, George, my dad was the most loving family man you'd ever want to meet, but he started going downhill. One Thanksgiving, they're all eating, and Webster gets up, walks over the microwave, opens it up, urinates in it, shuts the door, and sits back down and keeps eating. His mind was
It's
going.
just going.
Yeah. He was sleeping in his truck. He was using a stun gun on his head to knock himself out at night, because with this stuff, sometimes you can't shut things off. I've gone up to 4 nights straight with 0 sleep.
Oh my gosh.
And his teeth were rotting out, so he was super gluing them back in. He couldn't think about going to a dentist.
Yeah.
I mean, and then he dies, and then Omalo gets his brain. And Bennett didn't even understand football.
Mm-hmm.
And so he's hearing all these stories about this guy's like this American hero. And Bennett's wondering, well, if he's a hero, how did he end up like this?
Mm-hmm.
So Bennett did study, and suppose he died of heart disease or something, right?
Mm-hmm.
But he kept going, no, these stories I'm hearing about him.
It's got to be in the brain.
Yeah, and so he started doing on his own money. He spent like $30,000 or $40,000 sending samples all over the country, and all of a sudden he gets his hit. Bingo! All these tau proteins and amyloid plaques built up in his brain had never been seen before.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, "What is this?" And then he gets Justin Strelzik's brain, same thing. And then as Dave Duerson, who shoots himself in the chest to save his brain so it could be tested.
Mm.
All the same thing. And Omala's writing paper after paper, and the NFL just keeps ripping him to shreds.
Well, you know what that sounds like? That sounds like Alzheimer's. I mean,
Right.
It sounds like these injuries are giving you like Alzheimer's from the injuries, which is
it's
crazy.
very, very similar with the plaques that build up in Alzheimer's disease. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. It's a little bit different though with the tau, and the tau comes from, and the neurotubules. Mm-hmm. Okay, so every hit, as you well know, the brain sloshes around in the skull because it's encased in fluid. Mm-hmm. But when it sloshes, those neurons stretch.
Yeah.
And as they stretch, they get inflamed. Mm-hmm. And as they get inflamed, they start dying off. And part of what makes those tubules is a protein called tau. Mm-hmm. And that tau sloughs off. And that's what starts building up these big amyloid plaques.
Yeah.
It's from repeated trauma, not one big hit usually. And so more and more guys started coming up, and Omar was doing more studies. He and I connect. All of a sudden I'm going, I'm not this anomaly. I always thought I was just like this.
Well, I'm sure because the NFL puts you, kind of throws you away. They don't give you the time of day.
Right.
And you're just like, am I crazy? Like, what's going on here?
Yeah.
But it was probably somewhat refreshing to hear that there were other people out there with similar stories.
It broke my heart, but
obviously.
I'm like, okay, I'm not alone.
Yeah.
And that caused me to crank it up. I started doing every article and interview. I've been on ESPN, NPR, CNN, mm-hmm. you name it. There's 50 pages on the internet on me. As you may have seen.
Yeah, no, there was a lot on there. You look up your name and there's a lot about you.
Yeah. And so I'm just getting more and more vocal, and then I'm getting more and more into my brain injury consulting. I'm speaking all over the country. And then I start really ripping the NFL mild traumatic brain injury group led by Ira, Dr. No, we called him Casson, because they did an interview on 60 Minutes one time. Mm-hmm. They asked him like 17 times, or whatever it was.
Yeah.
You mean to tell me there's no correlation between repeated head trauma and brain problems in the NFL players? No.
Yeah, I think I've heard of this guy, or like that. That sounds very familiar. Which that's crazy.
Players,
yeah.
We nicknamed him Dr. No.
Yeah.
And so I'm writing. I'm posting letters to him on blogs and just ripping the hell out of him. So finally, about in 10 or 11, NFL fires them after the GQ magazine article comes, and they hire this Dr. Rich Ellenbogen to head up their mild traumatic brain injury group. Now, by now, I had found this blog, Dave Pear's blog, and Pear was an all-pro defensive tackle for the Raiders back when I was playing, before and then had multitude of surgeries, was all pro. And they threw him to the wolves, and he fought for years trying to get benefits. Mm-hmm. But he started this blog. And when I found the blog, I'm like, holy cow, there's a bunch of guys like me out here.
Yeah.
I started writing on his blog. So after they get rid of Dr. No, they hire this Dr. Rich Ellenbogen. I don't know Ellenbogen from squat, but all I know is if he's working for the NFL, he's a piece of shit.
Yeah.
And so I write this letter to him. Never met the man in my life. Posted on Dave Pear's blog. Dear Dr. Ellenbogen, I pray to God you're a man of character and not like these other paid whores that they've had in your position. I said, I hope you're a man of character and integrity and do what's right. Because these other punks will burn in hell for what they've done and their love of money. Post it. Next day I get a phone call. I go, yeah, this is George. George, this is Dr. Rich Ellenbogen. And I'm like, just like, excuse my language. I said, what the F do you want? Mm-hmm. He goes, I just want to personally call you and tell you I'm in no way, shape, or form affiliated with the NFL. And I just get into his ear. Hang up.
Yeah.
Next day, get another phone call. This is George. George, is Dr. Richard Ellenbogen. I go, what the F do you want now? Mm-hmm. He says, I've been reading up on you. He goes, you've had 9 VP shunt brain surgeries in 12 years. I said, yeah. He goes, you had 5 a 10-month period while you're completing biology degree? I said, yeah. He says, you're a wildlife biologist, environmental consultant, blah, 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 blah. I said, yeah. He goes, it's a miracle what you're doing. He
Yeah.
said, do you realize that we have a 50% failure rate with VP shunts? And I said, well, 8 of mine have failed. He goes, no, no. 1 out of 2 people that have one shunt never return to full cognitive functioning.
Wow.
He
So
goes, you
that's like,
have,
what are the odds on that? That's 2 to the ninth power over
he
1
says,
over
you
2 to
got,
the ninth power.
thank you. You're the math guy.
Yeah, which is huge. That's huge. That's crazy.
So Rich is going, it's a miracle what you're doing,
Hmm.
And so now we kind of warm up, we have a nice little talk, hang up. Third day, he calls me back again. George, this is Rich. Now we're on first name basis.
Hmm.
He said, I want you to do me a favor. He said, in 2 weeks, I'm meeting with the NFL Rules Committee. He said, I want you to write suggestions on how to reduce brain injuries in football, and I'm going to present them to the NFL Rules Committee. If you
Very good.
Google Sports Digest, the Visger rules,
Hmm.
I wrote him like 4 pages.
Oh, yeah.
Sports Digest got a hold of it and wrote a whole article on it titled The Visger Rules. You can Google it, pull it up.
Yeah. What?
You can,
So, just to pause here for a second because I think it's important. Are some of the most like important rule changes that you have seen them implement and that you think they should still implement for brain injuries? And I mean, this would probably apply to college and high school level too.
well, at any level.
Yeah.
So the head-to-head contact,
Hmm.
leading with the head. We were taught from the first day in pads, got to bow your neck and stick your face in the numbers, or you'll break your neck. They were always taught that was the safest way to do it.
Hmm.
Lead with your head. Okay. Now they're teaching techniques to position block. It's a lot of, even on run blocking, offensive linemen are coming out with their hands instead of firing out.
Hmm.
Hitting unprotected receivers. In the old days, when a guy went up for a pass, they taught you drill him in the back before the ball gets there.
Hmm.
He's not going to. He's going to be. We call it short arm. He'll
Yeah.
short arm the next pass.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know,
It'll scare them
and
a little
so
bit.
a lot of that stuff. I had everything from my suggestions. I have rule changes to all linemen starting a 2-point stance, no one down on the ground, because then it's all upper body.
Hmm.
Defensive linemen too.
Yeah. So you can't
Um,
use your legs to just punch
yeah,
more force.
yeah, because when you're down, you have to lead with your head.
Hmm.
You know,
That too. Yeah.
and so I mean, I had you. You can pull it up. There's pages. I have everything from getting everyone on supplemental levels of omega-3 fish oils.
Yeah.
Omega-3s will ameliorate inflammation in your brain immediately.
Mm.
Okay, so another one I have. I've had 251 hyperbaric oxygen treatments over the years.
Yeah. Those are great.
So Ellen Bogue and I, we start. So the third day he calls and he asks for suggestions, and I give
Hmm.
him like 4 pages.
Yeah.
And again, you can pull them up, and he starts presenting them, and then they start pushing some of these things. I'm watching these new rules now, and I'm thinking, oh, that was my suggestion from 2010. They
Hmm.
implemented it in 14. That one in 15. Those two. I mean, it's taken a while, but
We're making progress. It sounds like.
yeah, the game's never going to be safe. That's just the way it is.
Yeah.
But it can be a hell of a lot safer. But and I'm torn with this stuff because it's like, gosh, it's going to turn into. It's not going to be the same game anymore that I loved. I loved the
Yeah.
violence of it.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, I
But
mean,
you do have to weigh the trade-offs,
yeah,
and I think you more than anyone has the know-how and the experience to make those judgment calls since you've had like the most extreme negatives from it and actually made it through and lived to tell the tale.
and I've been blessed. I mean, God's got a plan for me, pulling me through these things because this is my mission for my fourth quarter life.
Yeah.
Hit the road, using what I've learned, help people. I'm not anti-football. I've
Hmm.
had some coaches, they don't want me speaking at their school. I said, no, I'm all about goal setting, overcoming adversity, but knowing what you need to know what you're getting into, and the coaches. I'll train up the coaches on how to train these kids.
Hmm.
A lot of these, especially the younger levels, you get these coaches that think they're Vince Lombardi, you
Yeah.
know. because they never did it on the field.
Hmm.
Just like this guy I met at the gym yesterday that said they're pussifying the game. He played at a D3 or D4.
Yeah, like how
That's
much
like that's
does he
that's like a
know?
big high school. You know what I
Pretty
mean?
much, yeah, yeah. That's not super big.
Because he couldn't play anywhere else.
Yeah, but
You
he
know?
he everyone wants to have an opinion, you know.
Yeah.
Even the people who don't have the experience necessarily or the knowledge to warrant one.
But I'll tell you another one. Some of the things too that makes me happy is remember Chris Borland.
I do not know.
Okay, so Chris Borland was the 49ers. He was a second or third round pick for him several years ago.
Okay.
Linebacker, middle linebacker. He was All American out of Wisconsin. I think All American 2 years in a row. Great player. He led the Niners in tackles his rookie year, and then he stepped away.
Mm.
And they made him give them back his $600,000 signing bonus,
Hmm.
which he did. And he called me up. I'd never heard the guy because I don't follow the game.
Yeah.
He introduced himself years ago. Hey, George, my name's Chris Borland. I played for the 49ers, just finished my rookie year. And he goes, I've been following up on you and what's going on. He goes, and I just retired after my first year. I said, you know what, Chris? He was like 23. I
Yeah.
said, I need you speaking at conferences with me.
Hmm.
I said, you know how powerful it would be to stand on a stage and say, here's a young man who stepped away after one season and he's healthy. Here I am after 2 seasons. Wow.
Yeah. No,
So
that's quite the contrast. That's
so he
powerful.
he and I spoke at the premiere. I got to remember the name of this movie coming out years ago. We presented together. Great, I won't call him a kid, but
Hmm.
great guy. I mean, sharp. You know, and then he went back to school to get his degree, and he had a degree to get a master's. And gosh darn, I got to touch bases with him. That reminds me.
Yeah.
But
So,
so more and more guys started to see what I was doing and stepping away.
hmm, yeah. I mean, it's good to hear that we've made some progress in
Yeah,
that direction, and there's more people know about it. You know, people like you getting the word out there so that these things can't be covered up by the NFL because sounds like they tried for so long to just
oh,
sweep this under the rug, but it's good that voices like you are out there to make sure that that can't happen.
and let me tell you, it's not just an NFL disease.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure it's in there with hockey and rugby and any
But
contact sport.
I mean, at every level, I
Hmm.
had a mother of a Pop Warner kid
Hmm.
call me several years ago. She was back, I want to say in Pennsylvania, and I remember I got to pull this kid's name. My memory is so horrible. She called me up and she says, George, she goes, and she was livid. She says, my son struggled. He only played Pop Warner, but he struggled after he got done playing with depression, anger, explosive issues, blah, blah, blah. And no one would listen to her. And she said, doctor. And then one day he tells his mom he can't take it anymore. And he runs out of the house. She drives around town
Hmm.
at night with a flashlight, looking in trees for him,
Mm.
hanging. She comes home, he hung himself in the backyard. And she goes, I'm on a mission. I said, I'm with you.
Hmm.
I got to remember her name. And she has spoken years later at a congressional hearing. I said, I'll do everything I can in my power. So
Yeah.
it's not just, and then I'll tell you what, June
How old
2nd,
was he?
15.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And had already been struggling for a couple years with his brain going down the tube.
Hmm.
And so on June 2nd of just this last year, I'm literally standing in Silver Creek, Idaho, mid thigh, fly fishing
Hmm.
with one of my Colorado football teammates, Brian Rodeo Bo McCabe. He and I were like the wild mountain men.
Hmm.
This is back in the 70s.
Yeah.
So Bo, he was a linebacker, played right behind me.
Hmm.
He had a stroke with literally, I was at dinner with him and another one of our teammates in Seattle about 6 years ago, I guess. And he literally had a stroke right across from me.
Oh my gosh.
And
So
I didn't know
like,
he was having a stroke. I thought he
yeah.
was been drinking too much. I
Hmm.
can't drink anymore because of my seizures. I quit
Hmm.
in '82. But he and my other teammate Pat, they've been drinking, and he started looking at me really weird with this. and then fade. And
Like the
I was
droop
thinking, man.
going and everything. Yeah.
But here's the crazy thing. So before games, because Rodeo played linebacker right behind me, and part of my job was to keep the offensive lineman off of him so he could make tackles. Right, I was a defensive tackle.
Hmm.
We had this little thing before games. He used to tell me, he goes, "Man, Visk," he goes, "just watching you get ready." He goes, "I get so pumped up because I would just sit there, just start just picturing plays in my mind and just rocking. And he'd sit across from me on the stool,
Yeah.
I would just watch you. So we're having dinner, and I think he's giving me the look, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Like the same
And
one.
so while we're eating, I'm looking at him like this. I'm just going, "Let's go,
Hmm.
let's freaking go." And he's got this weird look, Well, I didn't know he was having a stroke,
Yeah.
and so he has struggled. He lost his business. He moved out here from Washington. His daughter's a nurse here in Boise. So Bo is like 20 minutes from me now, which is a godsend
That's great having someone.
because so I have him out fly fishing June 2nd, and I get a phone call from one of my old Pop Warner high school teammates
Hmm.
back in the 70s, back in Stockton,
Hmm.
Mark Davis. And long story with Mark, but and it's in my book. And in '76, when we graduated from high school, he signed my yearbook, all this crazy stuff. We'll
Yeah.
drink the blood of the enemy, and blah blah blah. And
Yeah.
then he signed it, Love Marky Poo Davis. So I
Hmm.
always call him Marky Poo, right?
Yeah.
So here I'm standing in the stream, phone call. I go, "Hey, Marky Poo." I hear the strange voice. "No, George, this is Sean, his son." And
Mm.
I'm like, "Yeah." And he goes, "My dad hasn't been answering the phone." And so Mark went through chemo about 4 years ago, and he kept calling me with my brains all effed up. I said, "Well, okay, so is mine. This is what I do.
Hmm.
The Omegas, I meditate, I pray, I do, and I was working with him. I drove down from Idaho and took him to one of our high school crab feeds last year. I said, "You need to be around the guys.
Yeah. Yeah. The
So
community.
so his son Sean says he hasn't been answering the phone. He goes, "I came over." He goes, "My dad killed himself. He's sitting here in his recliner." He goes, "Empty pill bottles." He goes, "And his phone's in his hand. I see he's been trying to call you." I'm
That's
like,
awful.
I lost another one.
So
If you're,
tragic.
if you're, okay, he played Pop Warner in high school. That was it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I lost another one a few years ago, Jason Hairston. Okay, Jason played in the mid 90s, like 15 years after me.
Hmm.
He played 1 year on the 49ers practice squad. He was a linebacker out of Davis, University of Davis, and then 1 year on the Broncos practice squad. Then went on and founded Sitka Gear, multi-million-dollar hunting apparel.
Hmm.
Sold that for millions. Founded Kuiu, Kuiu, top of the line hunting stuff in the world.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
built it up to a $50 million business.
Whoa.
Okay, just a few years ago, while after multiple legal battles, I was finally getting treatment at Center for Neuroskills,
Hmm.
and I had taken, Jason and I had hunted together, and he always kept telling me that he thought he had CTE. And I
Hmm.
said, "Well, Dr. Omalo has told me, the guy who discovered that, I have it." I said, "But I'm not going down that rabbit hole." I said, "I'm doing everything in my powers. I take supplements, I work out, I read, I pray, I, and I'm not going there."
Hmm.
And so I've been working with Jason. So he called me one day several years ago, and he told me he took a shotgun to bed with him the night before.
Mm.
And so I was driving. I turned around. I said, "Meet me down at the hyperbaric clinic in Sacramento."
Yeah.
And he meets me down there. I introduce him to Mike Greenhall, who I call Brother Mike. Mike treated me for years after the 49ers work comp carry the travelers quit paying for my treatments.
Mm.
And Mike, I slept on the floor there for 2.5 years after I lost my home.
Mm.
After I lost my kids' home. Brother Mike has been a godsend to me.
Yeah.
So I meet Jason down there, and he's just like, I know I have it. I'm losing my mind. I introduce him to Mike. He starts doing treatments. You know, we get really busy with life. And about 2 years later, after multiple legal battles, I'm living at Center for Neural Skills in Emeryville, and all my nephews and Hunt brothers are big time hunters. And one of my nephews called and said, "Uncle George, Jason took a shotgun to bed with him last night and blew his brains out with his kids in the house. He was watching his kids." like, another one. I've lost two or three guys that I have personally worked with.
Yeah. I think like
And
it's so tragic. And I think what would you say, like, you're pretty sharp, you're in good shape. Like what are some things you have done? I mean, you've mentioned working out, reading, meditation, prayer. Like what are some things you've done to help protect your mind, protect your body, and just stay sane throughout it all, it sounds like.
I look back on it, and not knowing some of the things I was doing back in the day were good for me. So in '82, after I had my second, third brain surgeries 10 hours apart,
Hmm.
and my brothers told the doctors, George has a couple beers and he goes wacko. So they did a test on me way back when.
Yeah.
EEG. I drank two beers, brain waves like this, two beers, they're all over the board.
Yeah. Yeah.
They said, you have brain seizures from alcohol, you can never drink again. I
Hmm.
quit drinking in '82.
So
Okay.
that definitely helped.
And I also, when I was a skinny kid growing up, as I told you,
Hmm.
I would eat 12, 16, 18 eggs a day to keep
Oh
my
my
weight up.
gosh.
Oh, I'm serious.
That's
And
so, that's crazy. Not in this,
most
not in
of,
this
most of
economy
them
with
were,
the egg situation right now.
and then piles of red meat. So when
Hmm.
I got done playing in '82, I thought, oh my gosh, my heart's going to explode from all the cholesterol I ate.
Hmm.
So I went strictly to fish and chicken way back then.
Hmm.
And then I read that omega-3 fish oils were good for lowering cholesterol. And I didn't even have had my check, but I've been on a high dose of omegas since the mid '80s.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
now they're showing it's a neuroprotectant. It's awesome for you.
Yeah. It's one
You
of those
know?
supplements that, like, you know, as someone kind of in healthcare and who wants to be a doctor, there's like most supplements are kind of fish oil. Ironically, or snake oil. Ironically, the one that isn't snake oil is fish oil for
But
the
and the thing too
omegas.
with fish oil, as you well know, you need to get the good industrial purified
Hmm.
because fatty fish store all their toxins, PCBs, all that stuff in the fat.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you don't want to buy cheap stuff.
And you want to
I
dose
use
it
Dr.
correctly because you
Barry
need a lot.
Sears. Pardon?
Oh, I was just saying you need to dose it correctly because you need a
Oh,
like more,
no.
oftentimes more than the container says.
Oh, you know what I take?
How much?
For years, I was taking 12 to 18 grams a day.
That's so
Grams.
much. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, but before I was taking like 8 or 10, and then Dr. Barry Sears, another one of these angels that have come into my life several years ago when I was very, very vocal.
Hmm.
I'd never heard of the guy. He has Medwell Health, a natural supplement, food stuff, and he's a world-renowned expert on reducing inflammation through dietary changes. He's
Hmm.
written books. Fascinating guy. So he calls me up, George, it's Dr. Barry Sears. Hey, nice to meet you. He goes, I want to start sending you my fish oils. I said, hey, Doc, I've been taking fish oils for years.
Hmm.
He goes, no, no, no. He goes, we need to get you on a therapeutic dose. I said, how much? He goes, we need you on 16 to 18 grams. Because I told him I'm taking like 4 or 5 a day,
Yeah.
60. He goes, no, 16 to 18 grams a day. He sent me gallons over the years. I mean, gallons.
I mean that's a lot. Like you buy fish oil and they're in these big containers, but you
He
probably were going
started
through those
sending
like
me
every week.
just not capped bottles. I would just
Oh,
take,
just to drink
I mean,
it.
slugs. It's like, okay, that's about 18 grams there,
Oh, oh, I bet that had an
So here's
unpleasant
a
taste
story
to
about
it.
Dr. Barry Sears.
Hmm.
I don't even know if you're familiar with the Kentucky coal mine incident years ago. The guy's name was I used to have it. Anyway, cave in. There was like 12 or 13 miners trapped for days.
Hmm.
Okay. By the time they got down to 11 of the 12 were dead from carbon monoxide poisoning. One guy was barely alive.
Hmm.
They bring him out. He's brain dead. Carbon monoxide,
Messes
they
all
bring
of
him
the
out.
cells up. Yeah.
He's on life support. Okay. They're like, okay, he's a vegetable. This is it.
Hmm.
Dr. Barry Sears hears about him, says, let me try him on my supplements. And everyone's laughing.
Hmm.
He says, George, and his name's starting to come back to me now because they've written stories on him. He says, I had him on 3 to 4 times the dose I have you on.
Hmm.
So he was taking like 60, 70, 80 grams a day, pumping them.
Yeah, just into him.
This guy walks and talks now. He was supposedly brain dead,
Yeah, he was
but,
gone.
but he got to him really soon when he could get that ameliorate that inflammation before the cells had completely died.
Hmm.
And so Dr. Barry Sears, guy's fanatic. I mean, fantastic. I love him. Has helped me immensely.
Yeah.
Um, and he has a company called Medwell Health. And he used to send me stuff. I said, Barry, he goes, you don't owe me. He goes, I've done well. My family's well. He goes, all I want to do is help people.
Yeah. I
That's his
think,
mission in life.
is that your phone going off?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I'll take that. But anyway, so I look back on, I think the fact I was on omegas, the fact I quit drinking,
Hmm.
I've always stayed in good shape physically.
Yeah, you still look like you're in fantastic shape. So,
I'm like 208 today.
hmm,
You know, I'm at the gym almost every day.
yeah,
You know, an hour and 4 minutes it takes me to do my workout.
that's
I
pretty good.
jump rope
Hmm.
for like 23 minutes. I get my heart rate up to 170, 180.
Hmm.
And then I just do a little circuit. I do only 4 weight exercises,
Okay.
but I give myself 4 minutes to do 6 sets of 20. So I'm right off the jump rope,
Hmm.
and heart's just cranked. So I get over the dumbbells and I'll do 20, and I walk over to the first machine, touch it, come back, grab another dumbbell.
So this is very like cardio intensive.
Oh, absolutely! It
Yeah.
tones me up, but the cardio is what I'm looking for.
Yeah. Yeah.
So and then after I do my set of 6 in 4 minutes, then I'm back on the jump rope for 2 minutes.
Hmm.
Heart still 170, 180. I do 6 sets in 4 minutes of, let's say, triceps. Same thing, 20 reps, not hip, boom, boom, boom.
Yeah.
Back on a jump rope. So my workout takes me almost exactly an hour and 4 minutes every
So you have
time.
it down. So, what does your diet look like? Because I think with these sort of things, I would imagine diet probably plays a pretty big role.
Oh, huge.
Yeah.
I always thought I ate really healthy because, I don't eat red meat. I eat very little. I don't rarely do junk food drive-throughs, all that.
Yeah.
I love cooking.
Yep.
I'm a avid outdoorsman. We live off of venison and elk and
Mm.
fish and ducks and stuff.
Oh, that's good.
Um, and now we're running 8 head of chicken.
Hmm.
So this morning, and all organic feed. The girls gave me 5 eggs this morning.
That's awesome.
Um, we're raising a bunch of our own fruits and vegetables here. My
Hmm.
wife is way beyond me on the nutritional eating because she's had intestinal problems for years.
Mm.
So Jennifer and I got married not even 3 years ago,
Hmm.
and she has taken me to another level on the. I mean, we do things like MCT oil on our coffee, which is great for the brain.
Hmm.
We good fats, healthy fats.
Yeah, like avocados and
Oh yeah,
that sort of
yeah.
stuff. Yeah.
Yep. Olive oils.
Yep.
Um, yeah, we eat very healthy. We work out every day.
Hmm.
I pretty much have not pretty much. We try to. If we
Yeah.
miss a
If you
day,
miss it, it's a day. Yeah. So
yeah,
we got exercise. We have no drinking. We have good diet, and then what
good
else? Like
supplements.
good supplements.
Um,
Yep. Good supplements.
yep.
The omegas. So in terms of like, how,
I'll tell you what. We also meditate a lot.
that's what I was headed towards. Like mental practices. Yeah.
Meditation and prayer. I'm telling you.
Yep.
So get this. Several years ago, do you remember Ricky Williams, Heisman Trophy winner?
I don't know.
Great running back from Texas. Great went in the NFL. Great running back. And then he stepped away at the peak of his career.
Hmm.
He wanted to get in. He was Ricky's a different kind of guy. He was smoking a lot of marijuana,
Hmm.
which all of a sudden the NFL. But he has some stuff going on, and that was the one thing he found that helped him concentrate more.
Yeah.
You know, and
I've
so
heard
he
that from a lot
stepped
of people.
away. He got into craniosacral therapy, studied things,
Hmm.
came back to the NFL after like a 2 year hiatus, and had like 2 or 3 of his best years ever.
Oh my gosh.
Then he really got into this craniosacral stuff, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
I don't know, I can't remember. Time frames are hard for me, but it was several years ago.
Yeah.
And I never met him. He played years after me. He calls me up. He says, George, introduced himself. Another one of these angels in my life.
Hmm.
He says, Ricky Williams, he goes, I'm doing this craniosacral therapy, intensive week-long therapy. I want 7 former NFL players to come out to Florida We got everything covered, and I want to put you guys through this treatment stuff.
Yeah, tell me about
So,
that. What does that look like?
okay, so I fly out there, and we all knew Ricky was a little different guy, right?
Yeah, yeah,
And so um, this craniosacral stuff, I'm thinking, "God, what is this, like voodoo stuff, you know?
yeah, yeah.
But I've tried anything. I've tried electroshock therapy, near infrared light therapy.
Hmm.
Right now, I'm doing neurofeedback.
Okay.
Um, I've done all kinds of stuff. If it works, I write up about it. If it doesn't work, I say it didn't work for me, but it may work for you.
Yeah.
So we go back to this week long session, and they had 7 of us in one big giant room.
Okay.
There's 7 tables. We had anywhere from 3 to 4 craniosacral therapists on us at once,
Hmm.
7 hours a day.
Oh my gosh, that's
So how
intense.
this works is it's not like chiropractic stuff.
Hmm.
It's touch to open up various systems, your lymphatic system in your body. So that, like,
Hmm.
it would work like this. I'm laying on the table, and I've got one therapist on my right ankle, you know, with just a little bit of pressure on my Achilles tendon.
Hmm.
And then one may have his or her hand underneath the shoulder,
Yeah,
and then another one may be, various pressure points that they know about.
yeah,
But there's no real pressure, and you just let your body's systems work, right?
yeah. It sounds like very Eastern medicine pressure point
It
type
is.
stuff.
He's
Yeah,
really into the Eastern stuff, right?
yeah.
So the second night we're there, and they kept all of us ball players away from all the therapists and all that. So we
Hmm.
would have dinner together. And the second night, and we're talking some studly guys that have played 10 and 12 years and were great players, and we're eating. It's kind of quiet, right?
Hmm.
All of a sudden, one of the guys said, "What's going on?" And then everyone's going, "What are you feeling?" Because no one wanted to say anything,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And they're going, "Man, hey, stuff's coming out of me, and things are happening." And we're like, "What?"
Hmm.
And man, I tell you what, it got so intense. One of our guys, who was a 12-year vet fullback who actually blocked for Ricky,
Hmm.
he broke down in tears one night. He goes, "I can't take it," and he left for a couple of days.
Mm.
Too many things were coming out of him. You know what I
Was it like
mean?
emotional stuff coming out, or?
Emotional,
Yeah,
well, you name it, all kinds of stuff.
yeah.
And then he came back the last couple of days. But it got to where I learned how to work with the therapist, right?
Hmm.
And so I go in there one day, and I get headaches a lot.
Yeah,
Now that's a precursor to, if the headaches continue and I start puking, then I go to the hospital because my shunts.
yeah.
So I had this headache for like 2 or 3 days, and I learned. And Ricky brought me back a second year. I was the only guy he brought back a second year.
Hmm.
So I learned, man, you get on that table, and you gotta work with these people. They'll go, "Okay, what's going on?" And everything's really quiet, dimmed lights in this room.
Hmm.
It's a very sedate area. And so I went in one day with this pounding headache. They go, "Do you have anything going on today?" I go, "Yeah, man, my head's killing me." And we're just talking like this, and I've got my eyes closed.
Yeah.
So they've got their hands on me, and one of them said, "What can you do about it?" And I got nothing. I said, "I've got VP shunt. I've got tubes in my brain. Pressure builds up. Blah blah blah." And then one of the therapists says, "Are you sure there's nothing you can do?" I said, "I got this blockage." They go, "Can you take it out?" So I know this sounds crazy,
Hmm.
but I'm laying there. Now, this is my second year down there, so I'm like, I'm a believer.
Yeah, yeah.
So in my mind, I put myself inside of my ventricle,
Hmm.
okay? And I
Yeah.
know inside the ventricles in your brain, there's little villi, little hair-like structures.
Yeah, that's going to be the choroid plexus. That's what produces
Yeah,
the CSF.
you
Yeah,
got it.
yeah.
Yeah. And so I pictured I'm in this room,
Hmm.
an opaque room. It's full of fluid, and there's little like tentacles hanging off the walls.
Hmm.
And then they ask me again, everything real quiet. "So what do you see?" I said, "Well, I'm in this room. It's just kind of opaque. I'm looking around, and I go, I see this opaque wall at the end,
Hmm.
and so, which to me that was the blockage in my brain.
Yeah, yeah.
And they said, "What can you do about it?" I said, "I don't know. I need to remove it." I walk up to it, And in my mind, I can feel it. It's
Yeah.
like, wow, it feels like wax, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And again, real quietly, how can you get rid of it? In my mind, I look around and there on the floor of my ventricle is a pick. Okay.
Yeah.
So I pick this pick up.
Mm-hmm.
And again, they're just talking to me very quietly. And I said, well, there's a pick here. Well, what are you going to do with it? I said, I'm going to try to bust this blockage out.
Mm-hmm.
So I start smacking it, and big chunks of wax are coming off, right?
Yeah.
And I'm doing this. And as I dig through it, when I punch through the other side, it went, fluid started. And at that second, my headache went, and
Wow.
before I said a word, the therapist down on my ankle said, oh my God, what just happened? Everyone could feel this release in my systems.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, I go, I mean, all of them go. And I said, wow, you guys, my headache's gone. And they're just going, they said, we just felt,
I mean, that's
I
like a
don't know how you want to
spiritual
explain it.
release, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm a firm believer in craniosacral therapy. I don't know how it works with just one therapist. I tried it when I came back to Sacramento,
Mm-hmm.
but it was one person for like a 30-minute. It was nowhere near the intensive stuff we did.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I've done all kinds of non-pharmaceutical stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And right now we're doing near infrared light. We bought our own little sauna. We'll
Yeah.
sit out
Saunas are
there.
great. Yeah.
Yep. Um, we, like I said, we eat very healthy. We 2 or 3 times a day we try to just take about 10 minutes and let's just sit down, my wife and I, and let's just be grateful.
Yeah. I think, I've just recently made a episode on meditation. It's very powerful. You sit,
Oh,
you're so connected to the screens and the phones and everything else. So if you can just take like you said, 10 minutes, just pull yourself out of it, sit down,
yep.
be present, feel your body, hear the sounds, all of the, feel the insides of your body, feel the blood moving around your breath, all of that. Like it makes a really big difference in,
Oh, it's huge.
yeah.
It resets a lot of your systems. It resets them.
Mm-hmm.
You give them a chance. Like you said, we're so blasted all day long with music and screens and da 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 da. And people they need to take a little bit of time to just let your body heal itself.
Yeah.
You know, you
And your
don't need
mind is
drugs.
just snap back into
So
reality almost.
yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, just like speaking to me, um, you wouldn't know that I've had 9 brain surgeries, and
No.
I have. When they do scans on my brain, there's huge areas that are like holes where there's no metabolic activity and stuff going on, and doctors just go, "Your brain looks like Swiss cheese, but you function so well."
Yeah. I mean, the fact that you've had the experiences and surgeries you've had, the fact that you've had over a year of missing memory. And I mean, you struggle with short-term memory loss now, but I
Yeah,
feel like that's
yeah.
you know, that's kind of pales in comparison to what I feel like the state you should be in, which would be a far worse state. So
No,
you're doing exceptional as far as I can tell. So whatever you're
I
doing
should be
must,
dead. I
yeah,
should be dead many times over.
yeah.
You know, but
So what
and
advice would you give to people, you know, in football or just who have had traumatic brain injuries or who have gone through some of the stuff that you've gone through?
okay, here's the saying that I use. This is an old football saying:
Hmm.
short, choppy steps. And in football, what that means when they train you up from the first year out there, if you when I do my talks,
Hmm.
and sometimes I'll have 450, 500 neuroprofessionals from all over the country,
Yeah.
and I'm giving an hour-long presentation, little knucklehead me. And when I get to this part about recovery, I'll tell people, don't worry about, okay, you get brain damage, you're in a car wreck, and all of a sudden you were whatever you were, a truck driver. Now you can't drive a truck anymore.
Hmm.
Okay, don't worry about getting back driving a truck. Just learning. If maybe it's one step today,
Hmm.
and then tomorrow 2 steps, and then maybe after that, maybe it's learning to read half of a sentence,
Yeah.
and then next week shoot for a full sentence, and just take little short choppy steps. Because like in football, they'll teach you. So when I'm doing my talks, I'll get entire audience to stand up.
Hmm.
I go, now follow me. I'll say feet shoulder width apart, and I get people in suits and ties shoulder width apart.
Yeah.
I go, if you're right-handed, put your right toe even with your left instep. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
and they'll do that, and then I go, okay, now when you're standing there, I said, okay, you got your feet balanced. I
Yeah.
said, now stick your chest out, your head up, and your butt out, and just squat down. So that's a hip position. You want, you're balanced. You got strength in your legs.
Mm-hmm.
In football, if you take a long stride like this,
Yeah.
like I'm falling over. You can push me over with a finger,
Mm-hmm.
but these short, little, choppy, powerful steps. That's how you block. That's how you tackle. So I'll have entire conferences.
Yeah.
Follow me.
Yeah.
Everyone going short, choppy steps, and I'll just say, you take short, choppy steps to recovery.
Yeah.
Don't worry about throwing an 80-yard bomb to score. I tell people, think about this. If a football team only got 4 yards of play, no more, no less, but got 4 yards of play every single play, they would never lose. And I'll tell you why. Because every single time they got the ball, they would get a first down, and they would be eating at the clock. They would score every time.
Yep.
So unless the other team actually did the same, you would win. You would have, because you would never be stopped, and you'd eat up the clock too.
Yeah. I mean, I think
even if they scored, you're still gonna take it down and score again.
Yeah. I mean, this is advice that is so. It's so widespread and wide-reaching. It's if you're trying to recover from something, if you're trying to get better at something, it's like you said, you don't throw the Hail Mary 80-yard pass out of the gate. You take these short little micro steps forward, and it doesn't seem like much in the moment, but it's progress. It's headed towards the right direction, and if you just keep doing that over time, you'll be surprised how far you get.
Exactly, and it works for business too.
Yeah, works for everything.
Okay, look, we want to make another $6 million next year. Well, how are you going to do that?
Mm-hmm.
Well, you're going to do that by let's up our weekly invoices by whatever it is, 8,000. Don't worry about bringing another million next year. Let's just focus on this week. And if we missed it this week by 2,000, let's shoot for 10,000 next week and make it up.
Yeah.
So
short little steps.
Yeah, short, choppy steps, man. And then just know that. As again, I steal a lot of quotes from my hero, my 94-year-old. She wasn't even 5 foot tall. My mom, Big Reed, I called her. Right? Yeah. Tough as nails, devout, but she always used to tell us, something good comes out of everything, and put it in God's hands.
Yeah.
And I tell people, the worst point of your life, if you stay on the path. And you do what you need to do. God isn't just going to give you everything. You need to work your butt off. If you stay on the path and do what's right, at some point in time, and it may be 38 years later like it is for me, you'll turn around and look back on that path, and you'll say, thank you, God, for all of those things that happened to me that I thought were horrible, because I would not be standing here right now, and now I understand, because now it's all worthwhile.
Yeah,
I have an amazing life right now. I'm back with my kids. Everybody, I mean, I could have died years ago under an underpass. Yeah. Still drinking, I mean,
on the deathbed when you were given last rites. I mean,
So, I mean, just, you got to do your part, work your tail off. But and it may be not what you think you're supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
You may get steered off somewhere else.
Yeah.
But he wants us to succeed.
He does, and he'll guide us that way.
God didn't come down here and die on a cross to just say, okay, because I don't want you guys to do well.
Yeah.
So, boy, if that's what I could tell people, that's what I would tell them.
Excellent, George. It's been a pleasure talking to you. What's next? What's next for you? You have your book coming out.
Yep. So I've got several big book signings. So I'm speaking at that conference, the Athlete Interrupted Conference at Sacramento State on the 22nd of this month.
Okay.
I'll be speaking at a men's Bible study on the 23rd to 450 men.
Wow.
At Destiny Church down in Sacramento. The next night, I'm speaking at 2 different sports bars, and these are book signings too.
Hmm.
And then, oh gosh, I'll have to look. I've probably done 18 podcasts in the last month or so.
Yeah,
Thank you for reminding me that I had one today.
of course. Yeah, I figured it was something like this. But
Well,
yeah,
here was the thing too. I think I told you I was up. I started working to finish my book yesterday at
that's
4, and
right. Yeah, so you've been
I worked till 6 o'clock this morning. And I
grinding
had
all
two
day and all
hours
night.
sleep, and I was trying to get caught up on stuff, and I was just like,
It's all good. And then yeah, socials. Where can people find you? Where can people hear about you and
okay,
read more?
so they can go. Okay, so my book is coming out, and there's a limited edition um, uh, collector's item. It's a hardcover copy, and they can pre-order it at just georgevisger.com. And if you go to that website, it has stuff you can book me for talks, and there's information on me and what have you.
Hmm.
But they can pre-order the book, and it's going fast because originally they only had like, I don't know, 250 limited edition hard copies, and they're like, man,
Yeah, they're
they're
flying.
cranking out a few more.
Very
So
good.
they're going, and then my Facebook page is just George Visger,
Hmm.
and I also have a traumatic brain injury Facebook page. It's called the Visger Group.
Okay.
Um, and it's crazy because there's also a Visger group, mine's dot, whatever it is. I'm not good. But another one came up recently, and they do like kitchen remodels back east.
Oh, that's a little different than what you're doing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So,
So we
yeah,
got the
they go to my
Facebook.
Facebook page.
Yeah.
I'm always posting stuff,
Hmm.
and and order the book.
Yeah.
And then if they don't want the hardcover later on this month, paperbacks will be out Barnes and Noble, Amazon, all the usual characters.
Awesome.
So yeah.
All right, George. It was great talking with you today. I think so much excellent wisdom, so many great stories. I think what you're doing is excellent, and what your message is something that a lot of people need to hear. And just the treatments and the things you've been doing and found helpful. It's great stuff. I'm
Hey,
really
I
happy I got to
appreciate
talk
you
with
having
you.
me on. I truly do. And when the book comes out, I'll send you an autographed copy.
Oh, thank you, thank you. That's
Yeah,
very
yeah.
kind.
No, I appreciate what you're doing too, being able to give people a voice.
Yeah,
So
awesome.
send me the link when this thing comes out. Send me the link, and I'll post it and get it out there too.
Absolutely, absolutely, of
Yeah,
course. All right.
awesome.
Well, you have a
Well,
nice
thanks,
night,
Bob.
George.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
And remember, short, choppy steps.
Short, choppy steps.
All
Good
right, brother.
stuff. All
Bye.
right. Take care.